They're not attacking humanity at a sexual level. They're attacking humanity at a foundational level, which means sexuality.
Right.
This is what people have a hard. I didn't say they're attacking humanity at their very foundation. If the power of the human being is their power to create, let's say we have a human being. What's the human being's superpower? Clearly, it's not to run at the speed of light. It's not to fly. It's not, the power of the human being is the capacity to create, and the synergy between the man and the woman giving birth to new human beings that can create, and the man giving birth to all kinds of innovations and solutions. That's their power, but it's all based on creative power. The creative power in the woman gives birth to humans, and the creative power in the man gives birth to solutions. All of which to push forward, quote unquote, dare I say, an agenda. Then there's dharma. Dharma means nature's path, nature's plan. Everything is nature's plan. I don't want to get lost in complexity because there's only nature at the end of the day. There's dharma, adharma, dharma meaning nature's plan when it's aligned, adharma meaning nature's plan when it's upside down. Now, all of the upside downness is part of a super plan. I don't want to get into this, but the point of what I'm trying to say is that the human being, man and woman, are made to come together, and their superpower is to birth and create. That's a lot of power. It's a supreme power. In fact, in some spiritual books or spiritual knowledges, it's said that they're the only ones who have such a power. So I don't want to push this further, not now, but the point is, so if I want to have access to that power, what do? I'm an external agent, and I see this, I'm like, these people can build. They can create worlds. I want that. What do? I have to create a separation between the two pieces that are made to be together. When you separate them, there's a magnet, there's like a power of attraction, and I manipulate that power of attraction in order to channel that creative power towards my objectives. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's not about sexuality, it's about human beings. It's about an understanding of what makes a human being special. It's that creative, generative power. Everything in nature can reproduce. Yeah, but what are they reproducing? That plant reproduced another plant. I don't want to minimize that plant, but it's a fucking plant. It's a tree. It's a bird. I don't want to minimize any creature. I'm just saying it's a bird. Well, if the bird is extinct or not, life goes on. The human being, however, has the capacity to create an entire world or multiple worlds, and is so powerful in his creative potential that he can create, the human beings can create, can destroy the very world we live in. Annihilate it, at least to a certain degree. You couldn't annihilate all of it, but at least the plane of operation, let's say Earth, let's pretend you can destroy it for a long time. Who does that? That's a very special creature that is endowed with a very special power. And spiritual scriptures are always trying to, in their own way, sometimes very obviously, hint and point towards this. So if for whatever reason, this is a huge conversation to be had, but just you're an external force and you want to have access to that, how do I make these people do what I want? Well, I'm telling you, I need to separate him from her. I need to create confusion between him and her. And how do I create confusion by him and her? By confusing him about who he is and by confusing her about who she is. It's as simple as that. By creating confusion, confusion equals ignorance. Ignorance equals disease. Dis-ease equals disease. Dis-ease, 2 words, and dis-ease brings disease in all kinds of symptoms that we know about. The disease is ignorance. Ignorance comes from confusion. Confusion comes from something in your nervous system that is not able to perceive what's going on for whatever reason. That's another subject. Therefore, the solution is knowledge. Knowledge is not information because we have so much information online. that if that was the solution, humanity would be enlightened, and quite the contrary. I don't think it's ever been as fucking dumb since forever. Okay, so go figure. Although everybody can tell you exactly what's going on, everybody, have you ever seen humanity, entire humanity is being enslaved, and there's not even a pushback. But the pushback is so minute, it's not even worth speaking about. It's a fart in the pool. So let's not confuse things. So if ignorance is the disease, then knowledge is the medicine. Knowledge is life. And knowledge is not data. It is data. It's not information. Knowledge is when your nervous system is operational and it's online. And that means the power of life, the current of life can circulate through it, which enlightens you, makes you know who you are, where you are, why you're here, who's for you, who's not, what the fuck is going on, and what you're supposed to do. That's what knowledge is. And in order for knowledge to pass, which is a power, it's a current of life, through your nervous system, which is technically a super antenna, there needs to be no obstruction, no tension, no restrictions, no limitations. So the process of healing is the removal of the obstructions. So again, just to bring it back at the start, this is not about sexuality, this is about the human being and their power, which of course is a generative creative power. Obviously, so we can say sexuality. I don't like the word, although I use it all the time, but it's limiting because people understand it in a particular way. So I just want to if you think you get it, I'm going to use it, I'm going to bring you from another angle. It's the generative power which is endowed in human beings, male and female. So when we see in the so-called men's movement today, men going their own way, or even if they're not going their own way, they're still banging hoes, but they're like, I have my own thing, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm like, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. But the reason you're thinking like this is because you're separated from dharma, meaning nature's path, the purpose of life. Otherwise, you would never say that. Because there's no meaning to your life. What is the meaning of your life getting a job and succeeding? At a very superficial level, yeah, I absolutely understand. Every man wants that. Success, affluence, strength, obviously. But it's like, what's the point of it? There's no point. You're doing it in a bubble. And at the end of the day, if you're really honest, you're really doing it for the girl because you want to get laid. You pretend that it's not, but really that's what it is. Because you cannot separate them two. They're made to be together. So this is an issue in the so-called manosphere because now, and I totally understand, it's just the issue comes from the fact that they haven't thought or gone deep enough to understand the condition of human beings, what is a human being in a greater context, because they're trying to keep it, surface level and they don't want to get into so-called spirituality. And what I'm saying is not spirituality, zoom out and look. It's not so hard to understand. Dharma, I'm not a Hindu. Dharma is a word used in so many different traditions, in so many different countries. It ain't got nothing to do with Hinduism or any religion. It means the way of nature, the eternal way of nature. Nature has been going on for, let's say, forever as far as we're concerned. And will keep going on forever as far as we're concerned. And clearly nature has a path and clearly nature has a plan. So the fact that I have to explain this shows to which extent we are confused, because you're like, what? Nature has a plan? I'm like, yeah, what do you think? This shows that we're out of tune. The nervous system is already shot so that you don't know that plan. You're not in tune with it. And you got to read a book that tells you about it. And then you got to copy what the book said so that you can try to tune yourself to it, but you're not tuned into it in the first place. It's like a person learning how to dance by learning techniques. I'm like, you ain't dancing, you're repeating techniques. That's not dancing. Dancing is flow. The rhythm takes you and makes you move. It's a sensorial experience. It's not here. You can bring mind into it if you want for fun. If you're a geek, enjoy yourself. But first, it picks you up. So dharma, the way of life, the natural way, whatever you want to call it, it's underlying reality. And we're not in tune with it, which shows to say that we have an issue with our hardware and software as human beings. So when men speak about going on their own, or that men should do this or should do that and ignore women in this, I'm like, I totally understand what you're saying. Don't get me wrong. But I'm trying to say, it's like, well, this is not sustainable. We have an issue. We have a worldwide epidemic. It's the war, the unholy war as I call it, between he and she. And this war has been going on, as far as we're concerned, since the very genesis of life. This is the very thing they're writing about in the book of in the Bible. Forget the Bible, forget your interpretation of the Bible, forget your belief systems. This is literally what they're saying. It's in the first, it's a basic first story. There's a schism, a schism. Something's not working. So either we demonize her or we demonize him. I'm like, that's the whole point. Demonize him or demonize her. That's the whole point. As long as it's one or the other, it's sick. There's no such thing as one or the other. It's one. It's like the circle with yin and yang. There's no such thing as half without the other half. It's one circle that's split in two. One is masculine. Let's say it's the white, and it's got a black eye in the very center, which means the very center of it, its very core, is the female. And when you go to the black part of the yin and yang, which represents the female, you can inverse them if it makes you happy. The very core of it is intent, which means the man. And all of that only exists in a circle. So the only thing that we care about at the end of the day is a circle. The circle of life. Right? So if we talk about one or the other, we've lost the point. We've lost the macro vision, which is the only thing that we care about. It's like, well, what's the point? So because the problem, and I really understand, the problem is so deep. This is the fundamental issue of life. This is the very first thing the Bible speaks about besides the creation. God created life in 6 days plus 1, then created him, then out of him came her. Forget. This is the basic story. Then they're in the garden. This is like we're the first couple of pages. And then something happens and the shit happens. This is the very start. Well, you can say what you want about the Bible unless you studied it. Genuinely, you can remove your helmet of Christianity and all the stuff that made this like. You can study it. It's very cryptic. It's very deep. It's brilliant. It's something. I'm like, well, why did this? And remember, this so-called Bible, the Old Testament is the Torah. So the Jews are on that book also. This is their foundation. So Abrahamic religions or this and that. I'm like, no. Put all this nonsense aside. I'm like, this is the foundation of, in the story, it's the foundation of our human experience. Something's happening at that level. So most people want to avoid that subject because it requires you to have such a deep, thorough understanding of the human experience. And who wants to make that effort, or who wants to invest so much energy investigating this genuinely? It's like, fuck it, I just want to make money, get laid, have fun. If you're lucky, you can get children and enjoy that for whatever it's worth. Who wants to investigate at that level? Very, very few people. It's unfortunate. And if I can bring something to the world, well, this is what I'm bringing. Like, it's an invitation and a guidance for those who want. It's like, this needs to be, if this is not resolved, there's no conversation to be had. This is why when all these so-called movements of revolution are coming, like, you don't know the problem. The problem isn't Trump or Trudeau or Putin or the oligarchs or the Rothschild. That's not the problem. These are symptoms. And I got nothing against these people. Let's be clear. I'm not telling you my opinion. I'm just saying, I just name names because these are the names your average person who's wandered the internet will have heard at some point. This is not where the issue is. This is an existential issue. At the very core of the human experience is at the start of the Bible. Can it be more at the start? It's the start. It starts there. There's a fuck. Now, I'm not saying it's a fuck. We'll talk about this some other time. All of this is brilliantly orchestrated and whatnot, but nevertheless, so there's a division between he and she. And that division is what perpetuates life on earth as we know it, adharma, meaning, I don't want to say against nature, but kind of sort of. Nature upside down. It's never against nature because there's only nature. It's nature upside down. Okay, well, tell me this is not what's going on. In a minute, your children will be plugged into a machine. Is that not nature upside down enough for you? Where does this come from? How come humans have gone that far? Like I told you, you give Coca-Cola to the dog. Do you think the dog is going to have it? I tried it with my German Shepherd. I had a German Shepherd for 15 years. This dude never ate, never drank Coca-Cola. So if you're in any way tuned to a little bit your sensitive nature as a human, that means your nature side, you would never consume a poison. So what's going on is, yeah, there's a conditioning, and society is conditioning people. Yeah, but that's not the excuse. You can condition me for 1,000 years. I'm not going to plug myself into this shit. Because I'm sane. So there must be a disease, and the disease must be expansive, and then now you provide a form of panacea, a palliative solution to my existential suffering. And then maybe it's a couple of steps ahead, like I don't need such a high dose. In a minute I can, if you push me along a little bit, then I'll just plug myself into that palliation. But it's because I have a need for it in the first place. If I didn't need it, I wouldn't even look at it. I'm like, well, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Who the hell wants to play spray painting? I like spray paint on a real wall. Now we're going to spray paint in the metaverse. And people got to do what they got to do to make a living. I don't want to disrespect nobody genuinely from the bottom of my heart. I'm just saying, like, think about it. At least once upon a time, you spray paint on the wall. Now you're going to spray paint on a wall that doesn't even exist. Think about it. So all I'm trying to say is that in order to understand the situation on Earth, and in order to understand the real issue between man and woman, and one has to first take a step back, and also realize that this is the foundational unit of life is he, she. This is how it goes. It's not one without the other doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean that one doesn't have power and the other one doesn't have power. Both have a special power, each one in his own or her own right, but they're made to come together. Yes, we can say, but man, he can exist in nature on his own. Okay, sure, but what's your point? Let's say I'm a man, and me, because I'm a man, and I'm stronger than a woman, and this and this and that, and I can hunt and all this fucking nonsense, great. Here I am, surviving on my own. Ask this jungle man, what's the point of your life? There's no meaning. What are you doing all day? Nothing. I'm bored. There's nothing to do. I'm hunting. I lift rocks for muscles. Like, what's the point? I swim. It's fun. I'm like, it's totally meaningless. We cannot understand sexuality. We cannot understand man or woman outside of the context of the two coming together. It doesn't mean that there's not the black part of yin and the white part of yin, and these two parts must be understood thoroughly to understand the whole, but the interest is the whole, and one part does not exist without the other. So, if you are interested in understanding why you're suffering as a man, or why women are the way they are, you cannot understand it by just staying at the surface and analyzing things at the top. It's like, no, you gotta journey deep into the rabbit hole. It's not for everybody. Maybe it's for you. If it is, good. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Here we go. Jokes aside, it's not for everybody, but maybe it is for you. And if it's for you, you better get ready and you better pack your shit, because you got a journey to take. It's a deep journey. It's a long journey. It's the most epic journey ever, since forever till forever. That I can assure you. And then we don't have time wasting energy saying she did this and he did this, like bitches. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. We have a real issue at hand, or a real disease. So some people call me a medicine man, and some people call me this and that. Well, if I'm a medicine man, my job is to fix the suffering of people. So of course my interest is the primary lesion, and primary lesion is the tear between he and she. So this is where my interest has gone for the past a bunch of years. And in order to dare I say, solve the problem, understand what I'm trying to say, at least understand it, and do the best I can in regards to this, because everything else is just a symptom. And humanity today is what it is, and it is going towards what it is, not because of the Rothschilds and the oligarchs and whatever that makes all this stuff, which is not to say that these people don't do something and they're not part of it. This is the symptoms, this is the surface. The issue from a human level is because of a tear between he and she, and the sexual power is being used by another form of intelligence. If this makes sense, good. If it don't make sense, I'm pretty sure you'll think about it for at least 10 minutes.